What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about reasons why you're mad. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have set up a time to go out with your best friend to lunch, and something comes up and they cancel, but they didn't let you know. You were expecting to go and nothing happened. Now let's say you set up a time to go to lunch with a new coworker and something unexpected comes up and again they cancel, but again you weren't aware. Which person would you be more upset at? Your best friend or your coworker? I think most people in that scenario would say their best friend, because a lot of people will say, well, that's just a coworker, I don't really know them, right? And then what you'll do is say, okay, well, I'll use that against them later on, right? Like, not against them in a negative way, just in a, okay, well, he's already blown me off or she's blown me off once, so I don't want that to happen again, so I'll be more cautious next time. Whereas your best friend is your best friend. And the reason, and one of the reasons I'm going to get into, it's an unmet expectation, right? So in both scenarios, the exact same thing happened. A person had scheduled something with you, and neither one let you know what was going on, and neither one showed up. But the reason why you would be more mad at your friend canceling is because you are already friends. So you have an expectation that they are going to treat you a certain way, which is why you're friends with them. So when they treat you in a way that you didn't expect them to treat you, right? As I said before, it was an unmet expectation. So now you're mad because of the unmet expectation. Whereas the other person you didn't really know, so you don't know what to expect. So when it happens, you're just like, oh well, some people are like that. Now, that's kind of the first problem, right? That's usually what happens, right? Whether you're talking friends or even a relationship, right, is usually someone in the relationship does something that makes the other person mad, but the other person usually is mad because of an unmet expectation, right? You expected this person to buy you something for your birthday or Valentine's Day, or even smaller, right? You expected them to go out on a date with you and take you out, right? You expected those things, and if something like that doesn't happen, then you get mad, right? Like, or it could be something small, right? You buy a candy bar and you expect your spouse or whoever you're dating to give you a piece, and then they don't give you a piece, so you get upset. You're really upset because you expected that to happen and it didn't. Now that is where it starts. Now I wanted to get into why it gets worse. Right? It gets worse because what happens is when you have that unmet expectation, right, that's not going on, then you don't voice it correctly, right? Which is where, understanding, effective ways of communication, right? So this is where you have to kind of use a couple of the things, right? So you say to yourself, okay, well, what just happened? Okay. My friend, let's just use my friend, right? My friend canceled on me and didn't let me know. I did not like that, so now I need to let them know instead of just not saying anything, right? So then what happens is one or two things. Either you say nothing to the friend, so the friend doesn't know, right, now that you're upset, right? Or you're passive-aggressive about it and you kind of don't talk about the issue, you just kind of bring it up. Maybe at a later point you make fun of the person for it. Whereas if you understood that, okay, I'm mad because of an unmet expectation, so now I will use effective communication skills to let my friend know what's going on. And you sit down and you say, hey, John, let's use John, right? The other day when you canceled on me, I had set time out of my day, out of my schedule, to hang out with you that time, and I did, I felt unimportant when you had something come up and you didn't let me know, right? Whereas you're not telling the person that you didn't like that something came up, right? We're all people. It's the fact that the person didn't let you know something come up, And then usually, even if the person would say, well, I'm sorry, it was last minute. I'm like, okay, I understand it was last minute, but whenever you found out, it would have been nice to get a text, so at least I knew, like, even if we were set to meet at 1 o'clock and you found out at 12:50, right? At least at that point at 12:50, I would have known, okay, emergency situation, I hope everything's okay with you, and now you know you can move on with the rest of your evening or afternoon because you're not going to lunch now. And if you were to have that conversation, more than likely that would resolve the issue. But we don't have those conversations, right? And the reason why we don't have it is a couple, right? One is we don't know how to have those conversations. But two is the vulnerability aspect of it, which is, this is your friend. So you're about to tell your friend something that you care about. Now they may say, you're tripping, you're just being stupid, it was no big deal, it was an emergency, why are you being like this, right? And we don't want to deal with that uncomfortable, that vulnerability aspect. Whereas understanding that, it doesn't matter what the other person says, you know that you're upset because of what happened, and you're just trying to effectively communicate what happened and what was wrong, right? And if the other person doesn't feel that what you're saying is valid, that's on them, that's not on you, right? If they're going to make you feel small for telling your friend that there is a problem or something happened that you didn't like, right, that's not something that you should feel bad or guilty about, right? If you were to, like my therapist used to do with me a lot, is you just role play, right? If you were to be the other person that canceled last minute and you were to role play with somebody and say, have that person play you, if you were to hear that and say, hey, I didn't like the fact that I didn't get a text, how would you respond? Would you respond that way? Would you say, oh, well, you're just tripping, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Or would you say, you know what, you're right, I should have texted you, right? And if that's how you would respond, then the fact that the other person didn't respond that way, that's just how that person decides to do it. But that doesn't make that person right for making you feel bad about making that decision. And at that point, once you communicate what was going on, if they have a negative reaction, then you would deal with that issue. Like, hey, do you really want to be friends with somebody that when you're telling them that there's an issue, their response is, get over it, right? So then that is now a separate issue, and you have to handle that separately. So just kind of want to finish with how to help maybe make those decisions for you. So first would be, if something happens that you don't like, I think first just question yourself as to why are you mad in that situation, right? And then you say, okay, well, I expected A to happen and it didn't, right? Then question that as well and say, well, why did you expect that to happen, right? Oh, it's because we're friends. Well, we're all people, so they could have just made a mistake, right? That's kind of how I do it, right? I would like my friends to text me when something happens if they have to cancel last minute, but if they cancel last minute, I'll kind of go through that process of saying, like, well, okay, well, I didn't like the fact that I didn't get texted, but it's not a huge deal because they're a person too. They can forget and as well, right? So for me, I'll kind of let it slide, because at that point I say to myself, it's not that big of a deal. Now, if it's something that keeps reoccurring, then I may bring it up. But, at that point, I question each time it happens. I'll question my own thinking of, why am I mad? What's going on? Now, if you get to the point where you say, I am mad, I do want to have a discussion, I do feel like this is either something that's continuing to go on, or this is something that I don't want to happen at all. So the fact that it happened once, I need to talk about it. That's great too. Again, try not to be upset when you're talking to them. Try to effectively, again, communicate and just state what's wrong, what unmet need are you having, right, and how you would like the issue resolved, right? And then understand that when you have the conversation, the person you're talking to does not have to respond the way you want them to. They're a person, they're going to respond the way they want to. And because they're going to respond the way they want to, you have to be willing to understand that going into the conversation. This way you can naturally react to however they react to you. And again, if they give you a bad reaction, Even if you don't want to talk about it in the moment because you need time to calm down, that's fine. But a good one to do is if you feel like they said something that makes fun of you, or they're trying to say it to upset you, just say, okay, well, I understand, I just wanted to voice to you my concern. And then you just leave it at that. You don't have to say anything else, and if you need time for yourself to think, to go back at it from their response, and you need a day or two, that's great too. So guys, that kind of wraps it up for the video. I hope that was helpful. If so, make sure you like the video, comment below maybe something that I should do going forward, or how this might help you and what you're currently going through, you know. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the next video, and I love you.